There is a technique that, when performed just once, ensures your vibration never drops again. It doesn't matter how much pain you are carrying in this moment. It doesn't matter how many times you have tried and failed. It doesn't matter how broken you feel right now, as you read these words with that small hope trembling in your chest. Evelyn Sterling discovered that thousands of souls have used this technique across multiple lifetimes without ever knowing its name, because the soul remembers it even when the mind has forgotten. And today, for the first time, you are going to remember it too. Before I reveal what this technique is and why no one else is teaching it in this precise way, I need you to do something at this very instant. Place a hand on your chest, right there, over your heart, where you feel the beat when everything is silent. Now take one breath, slow, deep, completely conscious, and ask yourself this, with total honesty, in the absolute privacy of your own soul. How many times have I tried to raise my vibration? And how many times has it fallen back down again, just when I thought this time would be different? If that question hurts, if that question is stuck in your throat like something you can't quite swallow, write 2 words in the comments right now. Eternal frequency. Those 2 words are your declaration, your cosmic signature, the exact moment your soul stopped asking permission to transform permanently. Write them now before we move a single step further, because what I'm about to share with you is not a morning routine, it is not an affirmation, it is not another breathing exercise you'll forget by Friday. What I am about to reveal to you is the exact reason why your vibration has kept falling every time you've raised it, and the only practice that ends that cycle forever. Let me tell you something that no one in the spiritual space is willing to say out loud, something you are probably going to hear for the first time in your life. Most advice about vibration is broken, not because the teachers are wrong, not because you are doing it incorrectly, but because almost everything you've been taught is designed to temporarily raise your frequency without ever changing the foundation upon which it rests. You meditate for 20 minutes, you feel lighter. Then traffic happens, you spend an hour in gratitude. You feel open, expansive, connected. Then a text message arrives, and you fall again. You repeat your affirmations with all the conviction in the world. You feel the energy moving through your body. Then an old memory emerges without warning. Then a bill arrives. Then a conversation with someone you love takes a strange turn. And suddenly you are back exactly where you started. Maybe even lower than before, because now there is a new layer of frustration sitting on top of everything else. The frustration of knowing how a high vibration feels and being unable to sustain it. Evelyn Sterling called this pattern the revolving door of the 3rd dimension. In thousands upon thousands of hypnosis sessions spanning more than 4 decades of her life, she observed soul after soul describing the same exhausting cycle, reaching for the light, touching it briefly, and falling back into the density. And then she discovered why. And what she discovered is going to change everything you think you know about how consciousness actually works. Her name was Evelyn Sterling, born on April 19, 1931, in Savannah, Georgia. The wife of a Coast Guard officer, a grandmother, a woman with soft eyes and a North Carolina accent who didn't look like someone capable of decoding the permanent mechanics of human frequency. She began her work in 1968 after an unexpected hypnosis session revealed something that should have been impossible. A woman under trance began to speak, with a voice that was not her own, describing lives she had never lived, accessing a wisdom so ancient, so precise, so devastatingly exact, that Evelyn realized in that very moment her ordinary life was over, and something extraordinary had just begun. For the next 45 years she listened. She didn't preach, she didn't proclaim, she didn't declare. She listened. She listened to thousands of souls in dozens of countries, across every language, every culture, every social class. She listened to the deepest layer of the human being, what she called the subconscious, the part of you that has never forgotten who you are, the part directly connected to the source, the part that has never believed for a single instant the lies the world told you about your limitations. And through that listening over thousands of sessions, a pattern emerged that she did not expect to find. Not a pattern about past lives, not a pattern about extraterrestrial beings or dimensions or the nature of death, though she found all those things too. This was a pattern about frequency, about why some souls managed to rise permanently while others remained trapped in the revolving door. And what made the difference, what Evelyn documented in session after session after session, was something so simple, so counterintuitive, so profoundly misunderstood by the modern spiritual world, that when she first articulated it, even her most experienced students fell into complete silence. Here is what they haven't told you. Vibration is not something you raise. Vibration is something you remember. Read that again. Let it land. You have never been a low vibration being struggling to become high frequency. You have always been an infinite, luminous, extremely high frequency soul, temporarily experiencing the compression of a physical dimension. The dense reality you call everyday life is not your natural state. It is a costume, an extraordinarily convincing costume, but a costume nonetheless. And this distinction changes absolutely everything. Because if vibration is something you raise, then it can always be lowered again by the next thing life throws at you. But if vibration is something you remember, if it is something you return to rather than something you build, then the moment that memory becomes permanent, the fall stops forever. And before we continue with the exact technique, I want to pause here because there is something you need to hear at this precise moment. If you have reached this point in the video, if your soul has decided to stay while millions continue to flee from their own awakening, it is because something in you already knows. It already knows that you are ready for something deeper, more permanent, more real. And that is why I want to share something with you that has been accompanying this process of remembrance for many souls on the same path as you. There is a subtle, silent tool that has been acting as a bridge between the frequency you already are and the material abundance you deserve to manifest. It is called the Prosperity Magnet, and it is not a course, it is not a book, it is not another empty promise from the spiritual world. It is a piece designed specifically for souls like yours, souls that have already done the inner work, that already know who they are, but have not yet seen that truth reflected in their material reality. Because here is what Evelyn Sterling also documented, though few mention it. When a soul permanently anchors its eternal frequency, the material universe begins to reorganize itself to match it. Wealth, opportunities, resources, everything that seemed elusive begins to flow toward you like water, finally finding its natural level. The Prosperity Magnet is the perfect complement to this practice you are about to learn, because it accelerates that process of alignment between your internal frequency and your external manifestation. If you feel a small impulse right now, a slight vibration in your chest, a silent intuition telling you this is for you, follow that impulse. In the description of this video, you will find the link. It is no coincidence that you are here right now listening to this. Your soul knows exactly what it needs, and now we are going to return to the technique, because what comes next is what will seal everything. The technique I am going to share with you does one thing, one precise, permanent, and irreversible thing. It doesn't teach you how to climb. It burns the ladder and brings you home. Let me give you the foundation. Because this is not mysticism. This is documented reality. In her work, Evelyn encountered something she called the vibrational seal. It is a state of consciousness that hundreds of her clients accessed independently, without suggestion, in sessions conducted years apart and on different continents. It was a state they described with almost identical language, a moment of absolute inner stillness in which the soul stops acting out its frequency and simply is its frequency, without reaching upward, without holding on, simply being. In that state, subjects reported a sensation they consistently described as a click or a fitting into place, as if something that had been slightly misaligned for their entire lives had finally, permanently found its correct position. The neuroscientific community has been quietly circling this same phenomenon from a different direction. Research into what is called neural coherence, the synchronization of brain waves across multiple regions of the brain simultaneously, shows that certain internal states produce a kind of neurological locking mechanism. Once the brain has been in coherence at a high enough level for a long enough time, it begins to return there by default. It begins to treat high frequency as its home base rather than an occasional destination. Evelyn was not a neuroscientist. She was something more valuable. She was an archivist. She documented through thousands of human beings how this locking mechanism feels from the inside, what it requires, what it produces, and what specific practice, performed just once with the correct understanding and complete inner alignment, is capable of creating it permanently. I want to tell you about one specific session, one that Evelyn described as one of the most important of her entire career. A woman came to her, ordinary life, ordinary face. She had tried everything: crystals, meditation apps, retreats in Mount Shasta, Byron Bay and Glastonbury. She had a shelf full of underlined books and a journal full of written intentions. She had raised her vibration hundreds of times, and hundreds of times she had fallen. She sat in Evelyn's chair not because she believed, but because she had run out of other options. Evelyn put her into a trance. And when the subconscious spoke, it didn't give her a new technique, it didn't give her a longer morning routine. It said something that made the room suddenly feel completely still. It said, "She keeps trying to build the frequency from the outside in. She keeps piling practices on top of the wound instead of going inside the wound. The vibration doesn't fall because the practices fail. The vibration falls because the foundation beneath the practices was never touched. Tell her that the frequency is not above her. It is beneath everything she has been afraid to feel." The woman cried for an hour, not out of sadness, but with that specific kind of relief that only comes when someone finally says exactly what you always needed to hear. That session became the basis of what Evelyn called the quantum anchor, the practice of permanent frequency, the one you do just once. Not because once is magical, but because once is all it takes when you go deep enough in the right place. Before I give you the technique, I need you to understand something crucial, something that might be the most important thing you've ever heard about yourself. Your vibration doesn't fall because you are doing something wrong. Your vibration falls because somewhere inside you there exists a hidden, silent, fiercely defended belief that you do not deserve to remain on high. That expansion is temporary, that something is going to take it away from you, that you are not the kind of person who gets to stay in the light permanently. This belief was not born with you. You arrived on this earth as pure frequency. Evelyn confirmed this without exception. Every soul she ever accessed at the subconscious level was luminous and whole, none fractured, none less than magnificent. The belief was handed to you by people to whom it was also handed by others, in a chain of inherited smallness that stretches back further than any of us could trace. And every time you raise your vibration without dismantling that belief, you are building a beautiful house on a cracked foundation. Eventually it shifts. Eventually it gives way. Eventually the walls fall, not because you failed, but because the ground was never prepared. The quantum anchor technique adds nothing to your life. It removes the only thing that has been pulling you backward since the day you were born into forgetting. Now I am going to deliver to you what Evelyn documented, what the subconscious confirmed through hundreds of independent sessions, and what has produced permanent, measurable, irreversible changes in the frequency of every soul that received it with genuine intention. This is not a daily practice. You do this once, with your whole being, holding nothing back, and the permanent transformation it creates, the eternal frequency, becomes your new default state. First stage, the descent. Find a space where you will not be interrupted. Not a meditation chair with a timer. A real space, a sacred space, the floor of your room in complete silence if necessary. Lie down, close your eyes, and instead of reaching upward, instead of trying to feel light, high, or expanded, you go down. Deliberately descend into every heavy feeling you are carrying right now. Every grief, every shame, every wound you have been spiritually avoiding with positivity. Every old story about yourself that you know isn't true but that you still believe at 4 in the morning. You go toward all of it consciously, without resistance. This is not wallowing in pain. This is excavation. This is going to the foundation that every other technique has been afraid to touch. Remain in the descent until you reach what Evelyn's clients described as the floor, a point of absolute stillness beneath all the noise. It will feel like landing. It will feel like the end of something. And it is. It is the end of running away. Second stage, the naming. On the floor, in that stillness, you speak out loud. Not to anyone else, but to the wounded part of you that has been secretly convinced that high vibration isn't safe, that good things are snatched away, that you are fundamentally less than what you feel you are. You say these words out loud with your full voice. I have felt you. I have stopped running from you. I know now that you are not the truth of me. You are the fear that formed around a pain I was never meant to carry alone. I release you from the job of protecting me. I release you from the contract you made without my conscious permission. You are free, and so am I. This is the moment. This is what Evelyn called the cracking of the vibrational seal. Not through force, but through the only thing it was never designed to withstand, complete, unconditional acceptance. Third stage, the remembering. After the release, in the silence that follows, you do not try to feel better. You do not manufacture joy. You simply allow. You stay in the stillness. And you let what is real in you rise on its own, the way water rises when you stop pushing it down. And it will rise, not dramatically, not in a wave. It will rise the way the sunrise rises, gradually, undeniably, permanently. A warmth in the center of your chest, an expansion behind the breastbone that feels simultaneously completely new and ancient, beyond memory. That is your eternal frequency. That is what you have always been beneath everything the world told you to be. That is the vibration that doesn't fall because it isn't a state you created. It is a state you discovered, and you cannot unsee what you have already seen. Fourth stage, the quantum anchor. Now, still lying down, still in the warmth, you press 3 fingers of your right hand gently against the center of your chest. And you say, with a voice just above a whisper, I am anchored, not to a feeling, not to a practice, not to a version of myself that comes and goes. I am anchored to what I am, to the frequency that was never broken, to the light that was only covered, never extinguished. I am eternally anchored, once and forever. It is done. You hold those 3 fingers against your chest for 60 seconds in absolute stillness, not trying to feel anything, not needing to feel anything, simply acknowledging what is now permanently true about you. When you lift your fingers, that is the seal. The quantum anchor is set, and it requires no maintenance. It requires no repetition. It requires only the courage of having gone deep enough just once. Let me tell you what Evelyn observed in the subjects who experienced this process, because what she documented should be the thing that finally convinces you this is real. Within the first 24 hours, a quality of silence you haven't felt since childhood. Not an absence of thought, but a changed relationship with thought. The thoughts that used to hook you and drag you down now pass through you like clouds. You notice them. You do not become them. Within 72 hours, circumstances that previously would have derailed you for days produce a brief disturbance, and nothing more. Not because you are suppressing emotion, but because your foundation no longer shakes when the surface is stirred. The quantum anchor holds. Within a week, people around you begin to notice something different. Not what you are saying or doing, but what you are being. A steadiness, a warmth, a quality of presence they cannot name but can absolutely feel. Evelyn documented this repeatedly. She called it resonance transfer. When a soul permanently stabilizes at a higher frequency, it becomes a tuning fork for every soul in its proximity. Within a month, your external reality begins to reorganize around your new internal baseline. Opportunities that match your eternal frequency begin to appear. Relationships that do not match it begin to drift away. Not through drama, but through a silent and natural separation, like water finding its own level. This is not magical thinking. This is the documented pattern from Evelyn Sterling's archive of thousands of transformed souls. This is the physics of permanent frequency shift. This is what happens when you stop building and start discovering. Now I need to tell you something that has nothing to do with the technique, something that is simply true about you and needs to be said. You didn't find this video because you were scrolling mindlessly. You found it because something in you, the ancient, untouched, eternally connected part of you, reached out and pulled it in at the exact moment you were ready, after the exact amount of living it took to bring you here. Evelyn Sterling spent 45 years confirming one truth above all others. There are no accidents, not in any soul story, not in any moment that feels significant. The path that brought you here, every loss, every failure, every night you wondered if the light was ever going to return, was not proof that you were doing it wrong. It was the precise curriculum your soul designed to bring you exactly to this threshold. You came into this life with a mission that has nothing to do with your career, your relationships, or your bank account. You came to anchor the highest frequency available to a being in physical form. You came to be proof, living, breathing, walking proof, that it is possible to exist in a human body without being crushed by it. And you have been doing that work every time you chose to get up. Every time you chose love when fear was louder. Every time you chose to keep looking when giving up would have been easier. You have been doing the work without knowing you were doing it. The quantum anchor doesn't start your transformation. It recognizes it. It seals what has already been happening in you slowly, invisibly, bravely, for longer than you can probably remember. Here is how you will know that the quantum anchor has taken root. Not because you feel euphoric. Euphoria is temporary. Here is how permanent feels. You will notice that you stop tensing. That low-grade tension you've carried in your chest, that perpetual readiness for something to go wrong, begins to dissolve. Not all at once, but in layers, like sediment settling at the bottom of water when the water finally goes still. You will find yourself reacting less and responding more. Events that used to hijack your entire nervous system now land differently. You feel them, because you aren't suppressing anything, but they no longer possess you. You are larger than what is happening to you, and you know it. You will experience what Evelyn described as dimensional doubling, a simultaneous awareness of the human experience and the soul experience. You will feel your feet on the ground and your consciousness touching something vast at the same time. Not dissociation, but its opposite, a radical wholeness that doesn't require the world to behave a certain way to exist, and most importantly, most beautifully, most irreversibly, you will stop waiting. You will stop waiting for circumstances to change before allowing yourself to feel peace. You will stop waiting for other people to validate your worth. You will stop waiting for some future moment when the real version of your life begins. Because the eternal frequency doesn't live in the future. It lives here, in this body, in this moment, in the permanent truth of what you are. Let me tell you one more thing Evelyn discovered that will open your heart in the most beautiful way. In all her thousands of sessions, in every regression, in every conversation with the subconscious of every human being she worked with, she never, not once, found a soul that was not extraordinary. Not one. People who believed themselves to be ordinary. People who thought themselves broken beyond repair. People who had spent decades in silent, private despair, convinced that everyone else had access to something they had inexplicably been denied. Every single one of them, at the deepest level, was radiant. She said, "The subconscious has never told me a soul was anything less than magnificent, not once in 45 years. That includes you, the version of you reading this right now, with whatever secret grief you're carrying, with whatever doubt still lingers in the spaces you show to no one. That version of you accessed at the soul level is breathtaking. Eternal frequency is not something you earn by becoming magnificent. It is what becomes visible when you stop believing you aren't. I told you there would be something here for those who stayed, and I meant it. What I'm about to share is not in Evelyn Sterling's published books. It emerged from a lesser-known collection of session transcripts that her daughter, Sarah Sterling, preserved after Evelyn passed away in 2014. Transcripts documenting a specific phenomenon Evelyn called the soul resonance transfer. It is a technique that multiple subjects across unconnected sessions describe spontaneously, without suggestion, in almost identical terms. This is not taught anywhere else, and you are receiving it now because you stayed, because your soul was ready. The soul resonance transfer, the advanced seal. Once your quantum anchor is set, once you have done the primary practice above, there is a final amplification that permanently embeds your eternal frequency into your cellular memory, not just in your consciousness, in your body, in your DNA, in the physical vehicle that carries your soul. Do this within 48 hours of your quantum anchor practice. In complete silence, lying down with eyes closed, take 7 slow breaths. Count them. On the 7th breath, hold the air in your lungs and press your left palm flat against the center of your chest. Now in your mind, not spoken out loud but felt with absolute precision in the center of your chest where your hand rests, you transmit a single word, not as a thought, but as a frequency. You feel the word instead of thinking it. The word is home. Not as a destination, but as a declaration of current reality. Hold that word in the center of your chest for as long as you can hold your breath. When you exhale, slowly, completely, you are not releasing the frequency. You are sealing it into every cell. Your exhalation passes through every cell in your lungs, in your blood, in your bones, in your nervous system. Evelyn's subjects describe this as the moment the soul stops being a visitor in the body and becomes a resident. The frequency stops fluctuating because it is no longer held in the mind, which can be disturbed, distracted, or interrupted. Instead, it lives in the body itself, in the tissue, in the breath. That is why it becomes permanent, not because you executed a technique, but because you embedded the truth of your eternal frequency into the physical vessel that exists in time. And what is written in the body persists beyond circumstances, beyond loss, beyond fear, beyond anything the external world can manufacture. You have just received something that took Evelyn 45 years of listening to find. Don't let it pass. Do the practice. Honor it. Your soul already knows it. It was only waiting for you to remember. I want to close with something Evelyn said that I have never forgotten since the first time I heard it. She said, "Awakening is not the destination. Awakening is the recognition that you never left. You haven't been on a journey toward your highest frequency. You have been on a journey back to the memory of it. And every moment of that journey, every failed meditation, every morning you woke up heavy, every night you wondered if any of this was real, was necessary. It was exact. It was the precise pressure required to crack the shell around the truth. You are not raising your vibration today. You are remembering that it was never truly lowered. What was lowered was your access to it, never the frequency itself. And now the access is restored, not temporarily, not conditionally. Not only while you keep a perfect morning routine and avoid negative people and eat the right foods, permanently. Because the truth once remembered cannot be unremembered. Because home once found is never truly lost again. Write in the comments right now, eternal frequency, once and forever. Let that declaration travel. Let it find every other soul that needed to hear exactly what you heard today. Let it become the signal confirming that we are done with the revolving door. We are done with the temporary. We have found the permanent, unshakable, undeniable frequency of what we truly are. And carry this with you always, the words Evelyn would say to you if she could sit across from you right now, with those calm, wise eyes and that soft mountain warmth. You are not learning to vibrate higher. You are remembering that you always did. That is all this has ever been, a remembering. And you, beautiful soul, finally, completely, bravely, you have remembered. Welcome to your eternal frequency. You didn't find this video. This video found you at the exact moment you were ready, so that it could be the last piece you will ever need, once and forever. Created for the soul that was destined to arrive here exactly now.